Well, hi everyone. Welcome to Freedom Friday. Today we're going to talk about mindset, um, which which is an essential part of well everything that we do, but especially in this space where I think we are a lot of us are constantly challenged, and I think when you are challenged, this is where mindset comes up. When we are doing what we are comfortable with, we don't kind of notice things much. We just cruise along and we do our thing. Um, but when we kind of come against something that's kind of a little bit different, then it becomes challenging. It can become, and because it's different, it can become also a bit stressful. And our when we go into stress, our brain function changes, and this has been actually kind of this has been researched. We find that when we get stressed or challenged, we shift from our neocortex, with that, which is the front part of the brain, the kind of the most advanced part of the brain, supposedly. We move back into the limbic brain, the emotional brain, and that's when the emotions start coming up: the fear, the anger, the frustration, and all those emotions start coming up, and we kind of react rather than think through things. So I think where Tony is going to go today, he's going to talk about about the importance of mindset and uh, what we can do to overcome, to face these challenges as we move into new territory. So welcome, Tony.
Yeah, hi Gerald. Hi everyone. Yeah, thanks Gerald. Yeah, that's exactly right. We sort of often we look to the mind as the last option. We kind of tend to always be looking outside of ourselves. We can blame the problems out there, and sometimes it is quite difficult to sort of break into yourself and then get an accurate, honest read of where you're at. So, without any further ado, I'll bring up my slides and I'll run through what I've done here. Um, bear with me.
There we
So,
go.
yeah, I've called it mindset and finances because obviously we are very connected to finances and the crypto world. And I've just got a bit of a narrative there. How can we navigate the physical reality of money while staying balanced in mind, body, and spirit? And I think we could say, how can we navigate the physical reality, period, while staying balanced in mind, body, and spirit? This is the kind of eternal question, really, is how can we integrate and blend the physical reality with a spiritual life and maintain a balance, maintain your center. And it's not easy. It's kind of like walking a tightrope, really. And so I guess that's why we're given life, so that we can learn this. So really, it really all starts with belief, um, and we have certain beliefs. I put here around money and lack, but it can be beliefs about anything. So I'm just trying to apply it to the money side, but only in a very loose way. We can beliefs are really running our whole life, but we don't know it. So what are beliefs? Well, my assessment of beliefs are they repeated thoughts solidified with feeling, which creates your life paradigm. So when we have, and now these repeated thoughts, unbeknownst to us, a lot of them are happening without us even being aware. We have like hundreds of thousands of thoughts a day, and we're only really conscious of a very small number of them. But when thought is solidified with feeling, in other words, when you have it could either be a positive or a negative feeling around a certain thought, you're creating a very fixed sort of paradigm in yourself, and then the world will show up exactly as you believe it should. The world is the brain is just computing what you are feeling inside and thinking. So the world will shift as we shift, but it kind of easier said than done. So what are our current beliefs around money, crypto, wealth, or whatever it is? Now, this really does take some real introspection. It's not something I find that you can just do on the run, or just quickly spend 5 minutes. Oh, what are my beliefs? And oh, yeah, that's what they are. Because I found from my own experience that as you drill down, there's a lot more beliefs or finer aspects of beliefs than you realize. And so it does take a fair bit of effort to really unearth them, because a lot of them are very buried, going right back to childhood. And it is where they are seeded, is in childhood, when we're very impressionable, when we believe what our parents or the world tells us, and then maybe a certain thing happens, something quite extreme, like say war, can have a very profound, almost traumatic effect on you, which can create a certain belief or chain of beliefs. So I've asked another question here. Have you put a ceiling on your wealth? So this is alluding to a belief where people believe they only deserve so much. So what do you think or feel you deserve? And whatever you feel you deserve or what you think you deserve is what you will get. That is like essentially that is your ceiling. And there is a lot of stuff around both ends of the spectrum. From complete abject poverty to extreme riches. And I know there's going to be strong beliefs at both ends of the spectrum, but really it is about somewhere in the middle. But I think our society is very geared towards, if you really got a lot of money, then you've acquired it through devious means, you've had to screw someone over, or there will be a lot of jealousy. And I know a lot of people um, have mentioned, and I've read about and have spoken about, where they became into a lot of wealth, and really their personal life degenerated into a bit of misery. And I would say that's because they didn't have the mindset to be able to deal with that. And then there's the other end of the spectrum where someone might have lost everything. They're really living on the breadline. And, there's a lot of beliefs around that as well. Woe is me. This is my lot. The world's a mean, harsh place. And so, so somehow we've got to find a happy medium. We've got to be we've got to feel abundant, and we've also got to believe and know that we deserve to be abundant. And yeah, we obviously all different, and so we have to find what's right for us. And also, are you living someone else's life rather than living your own authentic self? Now, this is where, this is, people might think that's a weird question to ask. Of course, I'm living my life. I'm living exactly what I want to live. But I realized for myself, actually, I was living someone else's dream a lot of the time in my life. My parents, my teachers, friends around me, to fit in because of peer pressure, because of because of coercion. I believe that a lot of people are living through somebody else, or they're living what they feel is the right thing to do to be a good citizen, and all of that. So we have to really spend a fair bit of time picking apart. We can deconstruct ourselves. We can almost reverse engineer ourselves and then re-engineer ourselves. So this is what I call self-actualization. So when it comes to beliefs, well, obviously we've got to look at thoughts. Obviously, that's a key place to look at, seeing as beliefs are made up of repeated thoughts and strong emotion. So thoughts are pretty thoughts and imagination. So imagination really is just your thought. If your thoughts are going onto whatever it is, you're kind of imagining that into existence. And so imagination is really elevated to a higher level. Imagination is really your ultimate dream life, uh, unencumbered, unfiltered, your complete ultimate reality is. And we can start with our base thoughts, but we can, as we go along and as we analyze ourselves, we can start to refine our imagination into um, our ultimate reality. So conscious thoughts typically only, and how we do this is through our conscious thoughts, which typically only happen 3 to 5% of the time, and it's just utilizing a small part of our brain function, which is in the neocortex. But it's a very, very important part, because the conscious thought is our direction. It's our directional force. It's when we are pondering consciously what we want, that is very, very powerful. Um, but the trouble is, or the reason why a lot of those don't manifest, or they don't materialize in a very fast way, or even at all, is because of the subconscious. The subconscious thoughts are what is running our life. It is what puts our life on autopilot, and our subconscious thoughts are, running our whole bodily function, our nervous system. Um, our subconscious is doing so many things which we're not even, obviously not consciously thinking about. We don't think about our beating our heart. We don't think that we have to remember to pump our blood today. Or we don't think about how to breathe or things like this. It just happens naturally, it happens autonomously. But when we put more conscious thought, it's like putting a laser. If you think of a laser has a very small surface area that it will cover, but very, very focused, very, very concentrated. And so if we can put our conscious laser onto those areas of our life that maybe aren't working so well, or maybe that they are working well as well, then this is where we can start to reprogram our subconscious, our conscious mind, by repetitive thought into this new reality, into your ultimate dream life. We can start now by reprogramming ourselves. So as a child, as like I was saying before, as a child, we became programmed to a greater or lesser degree. Some people were heavily programmed in very restrictive household environments, very strict, or maybe the opposite. Maybe they had no sort of control mechanisms or boundaries at all, and that can be just as destructive as a heavily conditioned environment. So this is what really sets us up for our later life. And unless we do work to actually dissolve our old programs and reprogram ourselves, we're going to continually create the same things that we're always getting over and over. Emotions and other sensations get embedded in our subconscious, and this is what really creates our beliefs about the world and ourselves. Because emotions are far more powerful than thought. When you're up against somebody, say, who they are filled with rage, you cannot reason. You cannot use your thoughts and reason with that person often. If they are completely emotionally enraged or emotionally in absolute fear, often telling people to just sort of calm down often doesn't work, because the emotion in that moment is so powerful. So and as Einstein said, imagination is more powerful than knowledge. Dreaming our reality into existence is what we want to do. But the more that we can implant that dream into our subconscious, so that we are literally subconsciously creating our dream life in harmony with our thoughts and emotions. That's really what really is so powerful for the manifestating. Our intuition and our conscience is our guidance principles. So when we start to pierce the veil of all these illusions that we've been under, you'll start hearing our intuition, which is always there. It's always there. It's just that we're just not aware of it. That's all. And our conscience is like our moral compass. Our conscience is like it's like our guidance principle, and we need to listen to our conscience as well. So I see the conscience as kind of like a more cruder form of intuition. It's a biofeedback mechanism, and it is given to us so that we can constantly improve ourselves. It's intuition and our conscience is given to us so that we can up our game, so that we can become aware of what we maybe did that wasn't so great, or what we did really well, and then continue on with that. Thoughts are electric and directional, and it's a masculine energy. It's a reasoning logic energy. What I mean by thoughts are electric, I mean our thoughts. If you imagine like electricity, thoughts are like the electricity, whereas emotion is the magnetic aspect of electricity, because you need both. You need the light. You need the actual thought. Just like thoughts are like the electricity side, But without the magnetic, thoughts would have no direction and no real power. So so that's basically that. Then coming into emotions, and I've got emotions and feeling. Well, there is a difference between emotions and feeling. I see it like much like imagination or intuition and baseline thoughts. Emotions are sort of baseline. They're more lower end, and feeling are more refined. Feeling is coming more from the heart and are more conscious, where emotions tend to be a little more unconscious, or often reactive in the subconscious, and they tend to relate to the lower chakras of our body. Emotions are like water, and just like water, it likes to flow, and however, they need a container. So if we're letting our emotions run all over the place, we're not going to achieve much. So we have to remember to have a container, we have a boundaries to, if you're putting water in a bucket, and it's full of holes, well, then all the water's just draining out. And that's like your energy draining out, because emotions is energy in motion. So, but they really, emotions need to flow. They absolutely need to flow. So how can we do that? And also, emotions resonate with the senses and lower chakras. Oh, like I said before, sorry. Feelings and thoughts in alignment is where the magic happens. So this is the trick: is if you have a particular, for example, if you have a particular thought of what you would like to create in your life, if you are really aware, you will notice a feeling that will appear in your body on that thought. And it's either going to feel good or it's not going to feel good. So, again, this is a biofeedback mechanism at work. So, this is not something, again, that you can just do in a few minutes or in a night, just having a bit of a brainstorm and then getting back to your, getting back to your life. These things need to be pondered, and you need to really drill down and think what you really want, and then analyze how you feel about that, and then you'll start to feel some sense of cohesion. So feelings, like I said before, are our power, and they're feminine in nature. This is the magnetic aspect of our universe. Our whole universe is electric and magnetic, or plasma. Plasma is also another word for the electric aspect of it. And I believe also our sun is a plasma ball. It's not a nuclear powered, it's actually plasma, which is why it's often seen as akin to the father or our mind. It also has a very strong masculine mind aspect, because electric or plasmic power is a masculine power, a masculine energy. Strong feelings will always win out over thought, as I've mentioned before. Expression is a key to balance, along with unified thought on the matter. So we need a combo of reasoning and logic with empathy. It's not one or the other. People tend to bounce between either or, either or. We bounce from left to right. We're bouncing around up and down. And we need to find our center, and that's the third principle, is really bringing in the heart into the matter, and balancing it up with our spirituality and our material aspect as well, or you could say our logic, reasoning mind, and our compassion, or our feelings for humanity, that sort of thing. And crypto and technology is very much on the left side of the equation, the logic side, the mind aspect. Whereas your dreams and when you're in dream state, that is very much on the feeling side of things. That's on the right side of the brain. So one way we can come into balance and help to balance our mind and our emotions is through nature and being what I call our elemental self. So nature and exposure to the elements help with energy balance and de-stressing our minds. Have you ever noticed when you're having when you're walking in the bush or at the beach? These are very simple, seemingly kind of almost obvious things, but sometimes the obvious needs to be, highlighted, because life is simple when you boil it down. It's just the hard part is just is living it and reprogramming or deprogramming ourselves from all of the stress that we have accumulated over our life. So I believe, getting out in sunshine, drinking pure water, eating good food, breathing deeply the air, and even being exposed to a natural fire or the sun. The sun is also the fire element. These are just incredibly energizing, just through their natural inherent energies that they provide. Um, so we're not only surrounded by these elements above and below us and all around us with the air and the trees and everything else. We are the elements. We are actually made of these elements. If you analyze our body, which is 99.9% space, so we're actually 99, most of what we are is actually invisible. 99.9% of us is ether, which it isn't even visible on the physical reality. And the other four elements make up the other 0.01% or whatever it is. Yet without that, we wouldn't exist either. So we've got to understand the different degrees and different degrees of elements and the different compositions of what we are. So the five elements correspond to everything that we sort of take for granted in the world or we're not even aware of, but they are always there and they're always functioning and directing our life, is things like the senses, the five senses, the organs of the body itself, movement. Movement is like an element. It's of fire and air. It relates to our directions on the compass directions, and our direction in life as well is sort of like an element. Seasons, you're learning, when we're learning, different people learn through different elements. Some people are more earth-based, some people are more, so earthy people need slow and steady, and they need to check and analyze everything. They need to double check everything, and they're very methodical and maybe a little slower than, say, someone who's a fire person who wants it quick and fast, and they can often download things much quicker. But they have to, also have to be careful that they don't react too quickly. Elements also relate to states of mind, obviously the emotions and our feelings, the earth itself and the components of the earth, and even the stars, and just about everything in the world is elemental in nature. So I think if we put our attention, when we come back to our thoughts, when we come back to our belief systems, when we come back to our feelings, if we put energy into these elements, we are then putting energy into the fundamental building blocks which can create our life from ground up. So this is where I think our life, our thoughts shouldn't just go out on what we want, and yeah, we need to set what we want, but they shouldn't. What I mean is they shouldn't all be going outward into everyday stuff. We have to put them, direct our thoughts using our conscious mind inwardly to these elemental aspects of ourself and all the things around us that are reflecting that. I mean, if you're looking at a tree, for instance, that's reflecting back to you a whole lot of incredible fundamental aspects of yourself. Just look at it. It's well rooted in the ground. It's got a nice straight trunk, just like our spine. And the way it's growing up towards the sun, and it's branching out. And this is how our life should be. We should be well grounded. We need to reach up to the higher elements. We need to branch out and try new things. So it's all there kind of coded as well in our language. The language is also an element. Our speech is elemental, and the thoughts itself are also elemental. So this is where I think most of our conscious attention and intention needs to go. So the secret is to apply to your elemental strengths and shore up your weaknesses. And you can easily do a self-diagnosis on yourself by just questioning with honesty is your self-diagnosis. Find out who you are in these elements, whether you are very methodical, earthy, or are you a quick thinking air person, or are you a very watery, emotional person, or are you a fiery, passionate person? These to me are fundamentals. Exercise and movement is also very important for the mind and body. For bringing in more exercise naturally enhances the breathing, brings in more oxygen, which means you're expelling the toxins in a much more efficient manner. Movement, like yoga, walking, just any kind of movement is very much part of our natural self. We're born to move. Especially if we're at the computer a lot, I find sometimes I get very sore and stiff in my shoulders, and I feel myself starting to get a little bit round-shouldered maybe, or I'm tilting my head forward. This is going to affect our energy, and we need a straight spine, and so we need to get up and move and exercise to release some of the kind of like little bit of inflexibility starts coming in our body when we're fixated at the computer, or we're doing one thing sitting for long periods of time. It's has a great effect on your physiology and your thoughts and your feelings. It's all connected. So really, what we're doing here is we're attempting to build or rebuild new habits, and we're here to find our truth. It's all about truth as well. It's about conscious creating. It's about truth, and it's about freedom as well. Freedom is the outcome, but for me, my trinity is that truth is my foundation. Truth of me. What is my truth? The objective truths of the universe, the laws of the universe. That's very fundamental as well as a building block. These are kind of elements of our life. Creating with consciousness, that's the processing. That's my CPU aspect of our brain. That's the central processing unit, is the conscious mind. And then the freedom is the Freedom is the why for me. The freedom is the big it's the big why. It's the big result that I want to get in every level, and freedom within ourselves will translate to freedom with others. If we truly demonstrate what freedom is and we are interacting with others, others will start to pick it up. They will start to think, gee, I want what he's got because it feels good. And, it's all about what feels good is usually right for you. So, how do we build new habits? It's small baby steps. It's small, insignificant, or seemingly insignificant steps, and positive, repetitive actions or positive, repetitive thoughts. When you catch yourself, if you have a negative thought or a negative feeling, try just immediately overwrite it with a positive one. And when we do certain things in the day, like we say we do some people call it doing the dishes. When you're doing the dishes, use that as a cue to maybe review your day, or if you're doing it at night, use the concept of brushing your teeth as well. Use that to maybe, okay, I'll do a few stretches after I've done clean my teeth, and I'm going to do a few stretches or have a meditation afterwards or whatever it is. But what you can do is you can start attaching different other habits to regular habits that you're already doing. So that's kind of like a trigger or a cue for you to do those actions. Other things we can do, we've gone over these and other things, but we're going to repeat them again. So it's so important. Goal setting, vision boarding is very good. If people don't want to write, you just cut out pictures out of magazines, or get a whole lot of magazines and just cut out pictures that elicit an emotion or that feeling of the type of life you want to see yourself in. Or if you like to write, then journal. Get your journal out and do regular journaling. It's activating different parts of the brain. So this is why writing and goal setting and all these other actions, they all work on different aspects of our brain and our mind. So ask yourself, what do you really want? Find your why. And find some desire, find the motivation. I mean, desire is really just what motivates you. It might be an immediate desire to, maybe earn a bit more money, but then once you've earned that money, that desire will dissipate, but there will be a new one that will take its place. So this is where we can further our life by constantly upgrading, just constant upgrades all the time. Constantly our why can change. Our what do we want can change. So it's a constant inquiry. Um, so it's often what we think we want is not what we really want. It comes back to beliefs again. We may well be living someone else's life through us, or we're just pandering to our beliefs when really we don't. If we don't feel happy and contented inside, then that is a perfect cue to show you haven't yet really nailed what you really want. And while we're doing this, be true and authentic to yourself. In fact, if you are being, the more true and authentic you're being, the closer that you are going to be to getting what you want and knowing what your real desires and why is. So be true to yourself. If you can't be true to self, we're not going to be true to others, and world is going to show up. It's going to constantly show up as misalignments and arguments and misconnections. If we're not being true to us, we have to be true. Get aligned with the objective truths. So I've mentioned this before. The natural principles, the universal or natural laws of life. These are what I call objective truths. Objective meaning that they don't change. Not that they really change, they never change. They are actually scientific in the sense that they can be counted on. Like, but it's deciphering them and understanding them and applying them that is the difficulty. Like one of the laws, as you know, the law of correspondence says as above, so below. But people will recite it without really knowing what it really means. Um, so we have to try and, you know, drill down and try and get the real meaning of what that's about. And there's a lot of other there's laws of attraction and that, but I think that's also can be fraught with interpretation and perception, and the law of attraction can be very misaligned. I'm talking more about the real, natural, the fundamental truths and laws that have created this reality and in us as well. To me, what I've always desired to do is create my life on purpose. You know, I love. I remember when I was a kid, and my mum used to say, "You did that on purpose, didn't you?" And I thought, well, no, I didn't. But as I've got older, I realised, we need to start living our life on purpose. We need to start doing, thinking, and feeling on purpose, and having a purpose. So it's about living life on purpose is just simply living consciously. It's simply living fully aware of what you're doing and why you're doing it and how you're going to do it. And so this, I also call this self-actualization. So this is like creating ourselves, just like a garden. We can grow our life, but we first must plant a seed in good fertile soil. So we are essentially always growing, and we're always learning, never stops, and there's no time like now to start. So I find that when you use analogies of nature, they really help to see these ideas in our mind. If we can see what we're trying to think about, if we can see what someone is saying, that is so much easier for us to then assimilate. If people cannot see what you want, if you cannot see it in your mind's eye, then you're never going to create it. So we have to sort of bring our dreams to life with living pictures. This is how I see it, and this is what I try to practice myself. So that's the end of my actual slideshow. We can have a bit of a discussion or a bit of a rapport, a bit of banter. You're muted, Gerald.
Yes, I was just saying, I think you've
Sorry,
got.
can't hear you.
You can't hear me. Can you hear me now? Can you hear
I
me?
can now, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, I was saying
Yep.
you've got everyone stunned and speechless. Yeah. So yeah, that was. Uh, yeah, I mean, there's a lot to take on board, but it all makes sense. Um, and I suppose it's
It makes, yeah.
I suppose one way of helping to make more sense of it is to calm ourselves down, and this is one of the main ideas of meditation, is to just allow the mud to settle. You know, the all the little thoughts that muddy up your thinking and your perception to settle, so that you can see more clearly what is happening, you know, how you're thinking, what you're being affected by, the beliefs that are underlying your thoughts, your words, and your actions.
Yep.
So what?
I hope I don't lose you because you're the.
Is the internet getting a bit
good.
scratchy? So what would you suggest?
Yeah,
I mean,
it is, but you're still here.
So what would you suggest, you know, as a way to start to understand yourself better, and to, of course, we've got the aliens coming in today. Antonina, can you tell us who you are and what you're trying to say? Otherwise, you know, please be more kind of comprehensible.
I think what it is, Gerald, it's not a person, it's a bot.
Yeah, I think
It's
so.
some kind of it's not a human, it's a bot of some kind, I bet, or some kind of spam, some sort of spammy thing that's happening.
Yeah, spamming us with code. So I've been playing with Create a Sigil lately. Okay. Putting my desire into a symbol. It's magic.
Well, I think that's awesome. I think symbols, that is a really good thing. Symbols are amazing because they are a language that the mind can comprehend a lot of. It's like they say, a picture tells 1,000 words. Well, a symbol, I think, says 10,000 words. Especially if it's geometrical symbol or a symbol that depicts, depicts, actual elemental symbols. If I
Yes.
these are what we relate to because we're kind of looking at aspects of ourself when we're looking at symbols, our letters, our language. They say that the letters were created using the different angles and the different variations of how energy moves, and I thought that was really profound. If you look at an S, for example, it's very it's incredible how it's really kind of energy does move in spirals and circle.
Yes.
And the Taurus energy that's always circulating around the earth and around us and around any living being in living or even anything in nature has a Taurus field.
Yes.
And those angles have a mathematical formula as well. So just looking at a Taurus symbol, I believe, is there's something innately ancient in us that would understand that, and like you said, I mean, we can't create much if our mind is filled with worry, fear, thoughts that are just going nowhere, just random thoughts are constantly zinging through our mind.
Yeah.
We haven't got any room left to be able to create anything because that's sucking up all your energy. It's like literally depleting you.
Yeah.
So we have to find ways to clear our head, and that could be, many ways depending on the person. It could be just a walk on the beach. It could be yoga. It could be climbing a tree. I don't know. Or it could be just, for a lot of people, it's meditation. I think meditation is a common one. sitting down and being still, just focus consciously on being still.
Mm.
We realize actually we're quite jumpy, as beings. I
Yes.
know I am. I have quite a lot of fire and air energy in me. I'm not an earth person. I'm more fire and air, and that's and I know that because I'm always getting thoughts and I'm always thinking up ideas, and I'm in the big picture. Fire and air is all about the big picture, and I like to move fast.
Yeah.
You know, so what I have to do to relax is I have to do the opposite to that.
Yeah.
I have to find a grounding point. I have to sit and make myself do it because I won't come naturally to me. Some things you have to really work on
Yes.
uh, as the opposite. Working on the opposite of what you are is often as important as working on what you're really strong at.
Yeah. And in a way, sometimes we get drawn back into the kind of lifestyle that stimulates us. So maybe because it's a kind of comfort to get back into a kind of lifestyle that actually stirs the mind. So we kind of feel comfortable in that. But sometimes, as Tony says, it's actually really good to actually do something totally opposite and say go and camp by the beach, go and camp in a reserve somewhere, go up the mountains. By actually separating yourself from your daily life can do quite a lot to because you're actually cutting off that stimulation, and then you're setting yourself in nature, which, as Tony says, nature is a big collection of symbols, right? Because there's symbols everywhere. The big mountain, the trees, the river streaming down. All those things are actually, they kind of tickle our brain on a very symbolic level in all aspects. So what I find is when I do that, it takes a few days. It might take 2 to 3 days, but after doing that for a while, I'm able to come to a silence and stillness much more easily. Yeah, coming back to the breath. Ciela, yep, and sound. She talks about the primordial Om. The Sanskrit studied sound, and so the 52, I think it was 52, letters of the Sanskrit alphabet, each one was intended to create a different energy, and so the mantras are actually they're actually incantations to create different patterns of energy, and so when you keep repeating them, you actually shift your energetic pattern in your whole body, in your energy system, in your mind, and in your physical body. So
Yeah.
mantras, music, and dancing to mantras and music is very powerful too.
Absolutely. The some dance where you can actually it's like I think it was called divinely dangerous dancing. There's a
Right.
particular, yeah, a lady where you kind of just basically shook yourself into, it wasn't even really like dancing, it was like contorted kind of weird body movements where you see people doing it, but it was actually really quite powerful, letting go of all the stresses of the day. And yeah, I fully agree with music. Music is actually one really powerful way how I get to relax, and I can relax really quickly using particular music. I love the flowing instrumental. I like the transcendental kind of music,
Yeah.
psychedelic music. That's what really I really love, with lots of string instruments and drums, and I just love the whole, the whole symphony of
Yeah.
sound. And yes, Ella, mentioning the primordial Om, I learned the other day that Om, the or at the beginning is like a representational sound of the beginning, and the at the end is the end. And so, and the the Hindus always go, Om. There's actually three syllable or three sounds in Om. A lot of people just go Om, but it's actually Ayu Om. So it represents the Trinity. Again, it comes up the three, and it's about three key sounds that are primordial, as you say, they are primordial sounds of creation. It's representative. Brahma is the creator, Vishnu who's the preserver, and Shiva the destroyer, and which is how life goes in cycles. Everything's always been created, it's maintained or preserved for a while, but eventually it will disappear, it will die, it will dissolve, and then it will go round and round and round. So this is how we are. We've got to know that we're in a cycle of life. We're at a certain stage or cycle of a much larger cycle. We're kind of navigating through the universe, which is quite phenomenal, really, when you think about it. So yeah, there's many ways where we can find solace, where we can defrag. I call it defrag, just like a computer. We need to defrag computers. Our mind is computer-like. It's very much like a computer. We have a hard drive and a software, and we have the CPU and the RAM memory, and we have bandwidth. When we have good wide bandwidth, we're totally in the zone, and we have, all aspects of computer. But we're not. But I'm not making any reference that we become a computer. I'm just saying we're computer-like, and there's it's an analogy that is quite applicable to the brain. Anyway, certainly to the brain.
Yes. Perhaps on the other hand, there was that idea of the brain, the mind as a computer, and I think what they've also discovered that we are way beyond a computer, in that we can instantaneously connect things and understand things. It's like if someone cracks a joke. I mean, a computer couldn't understand a joke, could it? But we make connections, and like something about what somebody says triggers something, and we laugh and we think it's really funny. So there's some aspect of ourselves which is beyond the mechanics of computers, and that's probably the part that's intuitive, that's the most closely connected to our spiritual self.
That's absolutely right.
And possibly that's the space we want to come to a lot of the time, because that's the space where our imagination starts coming out, and we also connect with our confidence, with our expectation, our confidence in our abilities. We kind of overcome all those beliefs that we came to grow up with, that we're not capable of doing this, or we can't do that, or we couldn't be wealthy, or we couldn't be paid enough for our work, or whatever it is. So we are looking for, as Tony, as the whole, I think the whole, I'll see if I can try and put this in a nutshell of what you were saying, Tony, is that our beliefs are our kind of anchors, and they're in the subconscious, and we're not aware of them. And if we stay in lack of awareness, that is, if we live life in an unaware way, then we are actually just being controlled by our beliefs, right? Because that's what drives us, or that's what controls us. So the way to get through that is to start practicing awareness, and to start practicing being aware of what your mind is doing in the moment, being aware of how you're feeling in the moment, being aware of how you are reacting to a situation in the moment. It's like, okay, you're trying to open your wallet, your MetaMask wallet, and then you go into fear. Okay, just kind of start being aware. Oh yeah, I'm going into fear. What's that about? Where's that coming from? And then as you become aware of that, you might realize that actually there's nothing to be fearful about. It was a reaction. And then you can move on, with whatever you're doing. Yeah. And so I think that's the start of shifting out of living in limiting beliefs, living in unconsciousness. Yeah, and that I suppose
Yep,
that's what
you
they mean by
explained that. You
raising
explained that
consciousness.
really well.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. And what I advocate to help us get into that awareness state, using the elements in a conscious way, because the elements are like doorways. The elements are also they're like tools to be used, both with it's what we it's our fundamental, it's our foundations that we can harmonize with the elements, and we can use them in direct conscious ways, like like I said, deep breath, say, is the air element being exercised, or putting your feet on the earth is a quick way to get grounded. And that is going to bring you into a different physiological state, which then you can start hearing yourself think.
Yes.
These are energies as well. These are like the doorways, or the medium between the etheric, which is our source, which is pure, you could say the void, or just pure energy, and our life here now. So and if you think of it in degrees, where Earth is the most gross level, that's the most physical, right? But it's still it's still an intermediary between energy, and it is providing its own type of energy, but it's something that it's part of us as well, but yet it's outside of us. You know what I mean? And then if you look at water, well, water's a bit more finer. It's to do with emotions, right? And then air is even finer again, and it's to do with our thoughts. And the fire is our passion and our spirit or soul. And these are all essentially, they are mediums of energy exchange, just like money.
Yeah.
We use them and exchanging them all the time. So it's a form of currency. And I have this saying that consciousness is the ultimate currency. And the elements are the parts of that consciousness that make up.
Yes.
It's what we're transacting with the earth and the air and the water and the fire all the time.
Yes.
We just don't see it that way. We're building relationships with the elements.
That's right. And in fact, I read the other day, somebody was saying, we've got this idea about money as a medium of exchange. We're looking at it in a way that's not complete. And then the writer went on to say that actually, if you look at it originally, money was about relationship. It was about gift giving. You offer something to someone and they offer something to you, and you establish a relationship, and it could be shells, or it could be, I give you some fish, or I give you some of my extra tomatoes, or whatever it is. And but then that developed into money, but ultimately money is still a symbol of that gift giving and of the relationships that we have with each other. So if we could look at it that way, then it would shift our ideas about money too.
Money is, like they say in crypto, money is the token, and when you exchange your money for services rendered, you're showing a token of your appreciation.
Yeah,
That's
that's
sort
right.
of what it's really about. It's about expressing, relating, like you say. It's the middle. It's what we use in between relationships.
Mm,
Transacting is that there's a mini relationship going on, and the value of the money in the middle is like the tool that is exchanged for services rendered.
mm.
And it's just that's where the medium of exchange comes in. It's it's quite there's we could go on about this for
That's right. It's
but
you can meditate on money for quite a while because it goes very, very deep, and I
it
think
does.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, money. The word money comes from the word moon,
right, yeah,
and you've got the moon is a feminine symbol of the underworld, actually,
mm,
and money, and it's related to emotions. And
yeah.
I think money is probably one of the most emotive things that we have in our
Yeah.
world. It's right
Well,
up there.
it relates to such fundamental aspects of ourselves. I mean, it relates to the root chakra, to our survival. I mean, we have deep connections with money in relation to our ability to survive. That's one
Mm.
big thing. Plus, if you go on looking at the other elements in our ability to have power, to fulfill our ambitions, to actually go out and do things in life. That's a form of power, and you need money sometimes. You feel you need the money to be able to do the things you want to do. You need sometimes money or you feel you need money in order to express bonding with someone. You want to give something to someone, but you feel you can't, or whatever it is. So there are a lot of elemental aspects to our relationship to money as well. Uh,
Oh yeah, we haven't even hardly touched on that
yeah,
actually. I've
yeah.
kind of given a bit of an overview again, a mindset, but when it comes to crypto, I mean, crypto is a very much in the left brain logic reasoning
Mm,
realm. So we have to activate that air element, but it's also its opposite is the emotions, the other side. So if one is out of balance, the other will be out of balance as well. So when you're dealing with crypto and we're dealing with doing the work on the computer and stuff, we have to be in a good frame of mind. We have to be in a really clear. Don't do it when you're excessively tired, late at night, like I do sometimes. But we shouldn't really do that when we're really tired, and when you're rushed.
mm.
And it's like we've got to slow down to get to where we're going faster. You know, it is important to slow down and to speed up in your progress. Yeah. So I think that as far as
Oops, just
as
changing my
far as
battery.
right, yeah, as far as crypto and money goes, and the clear thing is having a clear mind, knowing why you're doing it, being and attaching that to your goals, to your outcome. Like I was saying, have the idea of doing the crypto is not to gain crypto for crypto's sake or money's sake. The idea of doing this is so that we can attain the dreams and goals that our imagination is depicting. And if we don't have those clear, we don't we're just like a boat in the Atlantic Ocean in a fairly probably large storm. We just get buffeted around because we don't know what our direction is, and we've got no guidance principle. We've got no compass.
Mm.
So if that's probably just bringing what I've been saying into this more practical side. We've just got to be really clear about our why and our what and our, those key questions: how and who, who are we
Yeah.
doing it with, and who are we doing it for as well?
Yes. And quite often,
And
I,
and also, where are we going? Where
yeah.
is a key question too.
Yeah, and do you think I think also sometimes we don't know the how, but we are, many people have said,
So you
no, I'm not muted. Can you not hear me? Mm, okay. Oh well,
yep.
I won't say anything then. But can you hear me now?
I can
Yeah,
hear
yeah,
you.
yeah. Okay.
Just there's a delay.
Yeah, yeah. What I was gonna say is sometimes we don't know the how of we may have an idea in our mind like, oh, I wish I could do this, or I'd like to do that to help people, or I'd like to do, and sometimes we don't know the how. But if you go through the process of clarifying your why, why you want to do this, um, at some point the what will become more apparent, like the what is the goal, what are the things that need to be done, and then the how then often appears and tells you, well, if you want to do this, then you need to study this a little bit, or you need to go there, or you need to ask that person, or you need to bring these people into the mix, or whatever it is. So by being clear about the why, your why in life, or your whys in life, um, then the hows will start becoming apparent, even if they're really crazy whys, even if like they're completely out of your comfort zone at the moment. And sometimes we just can't imagine, how could I possibly do that. Quite often you hear of people who've been successful in what they've wanted to do, and they wanted to do, in very amazing things. The more clear they got about their whys, then the whats became clear, and then the hows became clear after that. Yeah, do you
That's a
agree?
good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I as it I think what's his name? I've escapes my name, but he said something like, if you've got a big enough why, the how
Yeah.
takes care of itself.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think, was it Goethe who said that when you actually commit, so you've got this why, and you say, yeah, this is what I want to do, I really want to do, and you commit that, then things in nature move, forces of energy actually move to actually create that why.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And you can even attribute a lot of those questions to an element as well. This is how fine you can get it. The how is related to earth. The how is an earth question
Mm.
because earth-based people want to know how it works. Whereas a fire person or even someone who's very etheric, they'll want to know why. They'll want to know why first.
Yes.
But we really should make the source, the why, the first question for all of us, because
Mm.
that's your ultimate intention.
Yes.
That's your motivating force. If a lot of people start with the how, well, then they're actually putting the cart before the horse
Mm.
because they don't know if they're not surely why they're doing it. If they're not doing it for the right reasons, it won't succeed.
Yes.
Just won't. So we have to set the intention from source, and we have to go upstream to the source of the river to ensure that everything else that flows down from that comes your way.
Mm.
If we're trying to, understand the river from halfway down, when we
Yes.
don't know where the source is coming from,
Yes.
we're we're just going to be like a leaf flowing down there, completely oblivious to half of our reality.
That's right. And sometimes when we are in the situation that we are, we may have a limited idea of the tools that we have, the whats that we have. We might be saying, well, actually, I don't know how to do this, or actually, I don't have that tool, or you're actually limited by where you are now. However, if your why is big enough, your uh, your box of tools will expand, and you'll realize that actually that you have more capabilities and resources that you ever thought you had before. And that's how people do like amazing things, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So when it comes to your crypto and you're setting your goals, set set as they say, big ass hairy goals.
Yes,
Set big
that's right.
goals. Don't
Yeah.
don't hold back. We're in the time now where our thoughts and our good intentions can manifest so fast.
Mm, mm,
This seems like the whole world is collapsing and going to absolute shit, but it's only the old is falling away and there's a whole new world being birthed. This is where the creators and the creative people are going to have a field day.
mm,
Those who have no fear and see this time as an opportunity
mm.
will go far,
Yes.
and it will be they yeah, and I think that if we've got the mindset to handle, if we do get, I was going to say get lucky. There's a little belief coming there, but it's not luck. We make our luck.
Mm.
Luck happens to those who are well prepared
Yes, that's
and
right.
have set really good goals and have done a lot of due diligence on they've got the knowledge and they've got everything well planned,
Yeah.
and they know who they are and where they're going. But if we do come into some uh, good wealth, I think we've got to have a mindset of how can we help, how can we use that to be an example to show what good money can do in the world, because it's going to be sorely needed. I know it's going to be needed. There's going to be a lot of people who are going to get wrecked by the end of this year,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's not going to be pretty.
Yes.
So we have to somehow counterbalance that by, you know, using what we have. Even if we don't have a lot of money, we can still act as though we've got it. We can still act abundant and we can act prosperous.
Mm.
We can still have an abundant mindset even if we
Yes.
don't have money,
Yes.
because that's only one aspect. Money is only one aspect of abundance.
Yeah.
There's many other um, aspects which make up a good, happy life, and abundant life.
Mm. Yeah.
Health being one of them. If
Yes.
we've got our
Wealth.
health,
Yes.
we've
Holistic.
got a we've
Holistic health.
already halfway there in our wealth. And
Yeah.
we'll have energy. We'll have the energy to then be able to complete the other half.
Yes. This needs energy, definitely.
Mm.
um,
Oh, yeah.
and we're not advocating living beyond your means. So by having a wealthy attitude doesn't mean spending more than you actually have got at the moment, but it just means having a wealthy mindset. And I think this could bring us back to the 8 rules we talked about last week, where the wealthy mindset is the one of looking for how do you use. One is to live within your means, but the other is how do you allocate whatever comes into your life in terms of finances into something that's actually going to create more wealth, rather than just spending it all on the bills or spending it all on fancy things. So when we talk about a wealthy mindset, we talk about the way that a wealthy person grows their wealth.
Mm.
How do I get them to open up and feel the abundance in life is everywhere? Well, become an example in yourself. You could do that. Yeah, and
Yep.
this is Afina's friends and people who are very stressed because what they're fearing is their ability to survive. So living within your means could also mean letting go of some of the financial burdens in your life, trying to pay off your debts as quickly as possible so they're no longer burdening you. Try and get rid of some of the things that are costing too much and that you feel are not really necessary anymore, and maybe trimming back here and there. Yeah, can we survive this? Well, you know, we're living in a country of plenty, and I've seen countries with much, where people have much less, and they survive. So it's a question of adapting to our times. Perhaps, in fact, I'm very strongly convinced of that. Abundance is, yes, that's right.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah,
I think also, Finn, a good thing is just be a good um, be a good listener to what their real problems are. Let
yeah,
them don't. I find with a lot of people, if they're really stuck in the fear or they're stuck in survival mode, there's not, you know, I find you could say and give them all the advice in the world, and they often won't
yeah,
get it. So it's about dropping little seeds, just but listening deeply to what they're
mm,
really saying, because often what they say is what they fear is not necessarily
yes,
what they fear, it's something else.
yes, yes,
And so you have to listen with almost like a 5D ears. We have to sort of
yeah,
not just listen with our ears, but listen from our heart as well. We
mm,
have to feel what they're going through and just be there for them. I mean, I find that people do not want to be saved. They don't
no,
want
yeah,
us to try and fix them,
yeah,
because that's actually, it
no,
just doesn't
no,
work.
yeah,
I've tried. I know
yeah,
myself in many relationships I've had in the past, and I was trying to always help my partner or help friends who were very stuck. And the more I tried to help them, I found the relationship just ended in disaster or tears in the end,
mm, mm,
because they weren't really willing to be helped. Until they're ready to help themselves, all you can do is really be a sounding board.
yes. Or being a mirror,
Or
and so clarifying yourself in your mind, becoming clear so that's what I
yes,
meant earlier by being wealthy in yourself. What I also meant is being clear in yourself, so when you become a clear pool of water, you actually reflect the moon very clearly, the reflection of the moon. And so then people can, like a sounding board or like a mirror, can start seeing that actually their fear of survival in this time and whatever is actually, what it is something, as Tony said, underlying that. And once they feel that or realize that, then they in themselves then start feeling their way out of that fear, which is based in something else, not just this present time in life. Does that
mhm.
make sense?
Yeah,
Be
no,
yourself.
yeah, no. Thank you too, Finn, for
Yeah,
showing up.
yeah.
And yeah, well, it's a big subject,
Oh, yeah.
but life is not a theoretical exercise. Life is an actual action. Life is as an on-the-job training, so say. So we have to try and apply. We have to implement and apply what
Yeah,
we're learning.
yeah,
Otherwise, nothing will change.
yeah,
But first, we have to get lit up. We have to be motivated to
yeah,
change.
yeah,
And I think this is what's happening in the world today. I think the world is presenting to us the actual necessity for us to change with the times,
yeah,
to let go of everything that's not serving us. We have to be really ruthless with the letting go of people, things, whatever. We have to get out of this pleasure seeking comfort zone that people want to put themselves in, like a comfort bubble,
mm,
and pretend like the world's not happening while
yes,
it is. We've got to actually face reality.
yes,
We've got to face our shadow. I mean, we've got to face the dark. We've got to face our internal shadow. This is what I was actually trying. I made a post today about, there's actually really no evil in the world. I mean, I know there is evil on a physical level, evil deeds, evil people, just
mm,
the absence of light. But I immediately copped a few. I copped a few, you know, fairly vitrolic kind of little bit, you know, not so nice responses. And I thought, wow, that's really interesting, because a lot of people are, you know, they don't want to like look at that. It's hard work. It's hard work, but it's a truth nonetheless. And I can take those slings and arrows, as I've been doing this quite a long
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
and I've looked evil in the eyes. I know evil exists as I've seen it, but when I recognized, when I actually faced that fear, then it didn't exist. It did not exist. This being that was in front of me turned from a evil-looking being to a pussycat, because I did not flinch. And I knew what was going on. It was very reptilian in nature, and it shape-shifted in front of me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when people say, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about," I do know what I'm talking about. I've actually experienced reptilians in my life 2 or 3 times. And the first time, I tell you, the feeling in my gut was one of absolute terror at
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
But I was able in the moment to witness it and to feel it and dissolve it.
Yeah.
And that's what our light can do. And the light
Yeah.
is turned on. The light's not arguing with the dark. The light doesn't see the dark as evil. When the light's turned on, the dark just
Disappears.
dissolves.
Yes. That's right.
So,
And so you moved from like a reptilian reaction, that very deep fear. I mean, it's the most fundamental fear, right? And then you moved it, you switched it, you moved it through awareness. And this is a prime example of what we're trying to say, is you can feel in the deepest possible fear, and then you bring your awareness to it, and then it shifts, and then your consciousness expands, and then suddenly you're in a different space, and that fear is kind of becomes insignificant, after that. And
Yep.
you've Tony, you've talked about how you've talked about this, where the space we've come into, and that's why we've created DeFi Freedom, is because we feel that DeFi is the opportunity to challenge ourselves and to work through all these issues. I think it's one of the most amazing kind of platforms, which offers hope, but which also offers challenge, and it brings up all these fears, brings up all these beliefs, and it's a great platform to work with, and very relevant, and it's also a platform where we feel we can actually influence other people and actually expand the change all through the world, by person by person by person. So it's fantastic.
It's well said, Gerald. That's a great way to finish.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you guys for all your contributions and thoughts. Yeah, and thank you, Tony,
Yeah.
for
Yep. Thank you from me as well. Thank you from my heart for all your sharing and your, turning up, and your wonderful comments and support. It's very much appreciated, and I take note of every comment. So thank you.
Cool. All right. Well, have a fantastic weekend, and we'll talk to you next week, I'm sure. Okay.
Yep. Awesome. See
See
you.
you then. Bye.